Welcome, dear students, to the botany class. So, first of all, I welcome you all to Khalsa College Patiala, and you're welcome to BSc Medical and Botany class. So, this in semester 1, you are going to study botany papers, paper 1, diversity of microbes, and paper 2, diversity of cryptogams. We are going to start today with diversity of microbes, that is paper 1. And under this paper, we are going to discuss viruses, bacteria, fungi, lichens, and mycorrhiza. So, today we are going to start with fungi. So, general characteristics of fungi, their habit, habitat, and somatic structure. It is the first topic. So fungi are large group of thallus-like eukaryotic, achlorophyllous, non-vascular, spore-bearing plants with cell wall consisting of cellulose or chitin or both. So students, write on your notebooks this definition because it contains the crux of the story, which gives you a picture about the fungi. They are large group or a very big group, and the word fungus means to flourish. The study of fungi is known as mycology. So fungi includes all those plants whose form is thallus, that is not differentiated into root, stem, and leaves. A group of those plants whose form is a thallus built up of a single cell or cells that possess definite cell wall and nucleus, but they lack chlorophyll. That is why they are called as achlorophyllous. And differentiation of vascular tissue is also absent. That is why they are called as non-vascular plants. So if we discuss their habitat, it is a large group that includes more than 1 lakh species distributed throughout the world. They are ubiquitous, that is, they occur in almost every type of habitat wherever the organic material is available for their growth. They can occur in light as well as in dark because they lack chlorophyll and they cannot do the photosynthesis. That is why we call them achlorophyllous. So they do not require light for active growth and metabolism. Some fungi grow as parasites on plants as well as on animals and cause serious diseases. Fungi flourish well in moist, dark, warm conditions, freezing temperatures, as well as in hot deserts. So their conidia can survive even in completely unhydrated conditions. They can grow and contaminate foodstuffs such as bread, jam, pickles, fruits, and vegetables. You might have noticed that there is fungal growth. The mycelium comes over the fruits which are present in your kitchen and on the onion. On you can see during the monsoon season there is blackish tinge coming on the onion surface. There is a mycelium growing on the bread. It is a very common thing we can see. So they can grow in any type of atmosphere or wherever the organic material is available. So fungi they also grow as parasites. They cause serious diseases in man such as candidosis and aspergillosis. So they cause diseases to human beings also. Regarding habit, that is mode of life. The fungal members, as they lack chlorophyll and exhibit heterotrophic mode of nutrition, that is, they can be saprophytes as well as parasites. So, according to the mode of nutrition, they are classified on two categories. I told you saprophytes and parasites. So, saprophytes under those fungi which obtain their food from dead decaying organic matter. That is called as the saprophytic nutrition mode. And under saprophyte there are two types, that is obligate saprophytes and other is facultative parasites. We have to write here of facultative saprophytes. So there are two types, obligate saprophytes and facultative saprophytes. Under obligate, that is true type which get their food from dead decaying organic matter and can't grow on living host. That is, they are true saprophytes. They cannot grow on any other thing. They can only grow on dead decaying matter. Example are Agaricus pisciza. But the facultative saprophytes, they can grow on dead and decaying organic matter, but under certain condition become parasitic also. The example is Pythium. Under the parasite may be defined as an organism or virus existing in an intimate association with another living organism from which it derives an essential part of the materials for its existence. So parasites are further subdivided into two types: obligate, that is true parasites, and facultative parasites. So Luttrell 1974 divided obligate parasites into three categories. So obligate are true parasites, they are restricted only to living host tissues. So under Obligate parasite, there are three categories according to Luttrell. First are biotrophs. So biotrophs, they obtain their nutrients from living host. So they don't kill them. Example is Buccinia, Albugo. They complete their life cycle on that host. Second is hemibiotrophs. They are parasitic. They attack living tissue in the same way as biotrophs, but they sometimes continue to live in dead tissue also. When the tissue is dead and they sporulate after the tissue is dead. The example is leaf spot fungi. The third type of obligate parasites are perthrophs. So perthrophs, these first attack, kill the host tissue in advance and then get their nourishment saprophytically. So the example is Sclerotium rofsei. Under the facultative saprophytic category, it includes those fungi which live as parasites and pass most of the life cycle associating with the living host. So they are example as Phytophthora infestans, Tephrinia deformans. We will be discussing these in later on lectures. So this is just an introductory. So you keep on writing all the scientific names so that you can keep in your mind. If we discuss the nutrition, fungi need both organic and inorganic nutrients from external source for their normal growth and metabolism. So fungi are incapable of synthesizing their own food. The fungi need both organic and inorganic nutrients from external source for their normal growth and metabolism. A few fungi, they synthesize a part of their protein, fat and vitamin requirements. Most of the fungi synthesize their own requirements of growth hormones. So absorption of nutrients occur through whole mycelium or develop some special absorbing organs called as haustoria. In the diagram, you can see that there are host cells and those hyphae, the intercellular hyphae, they go into the cell or they are between intercellular as well as intracellular and they form haustoria. These haustoria are special absorbing organs that absorb the nutrition, they absorb the nutrients from the host cell, and simple sugars such as glucose, fructose, etc. are best suited for all fungi. So most fungi, they require such sources. Yeast, for example, requires acetate as a source of carbon. Nitrogen requirement is pulled by both organic and inorganic material. So hydrogen and oxygen is obtained from water. Many minerals such as potassium, magnesium needed as macronutrients and many as micronutrients like iron, zinc, copper and manganese. So the fungi grow best in slightly acidic medium around pH that is 6. The 7 is normal pH. So towards 1 is acidic. So 6 is a slightly acidic pH. The absorption of nutrients occur through whole mycelium. So the absorbing organs, that is haustoria, are very important to absorb the nutrients from the substratum. So saprophytes penetrate their hyphae into the substratum, secrete some enzymes which break complex molecules into whole of the host tissue and then they absorb the nutrients. So if we discuss the somatic or vegetative structures of plant body, the plant body of fungi is thalloid. That is, it is not differentiated into root, stem and leaves. And thallus may be unicellular or multicellular. Thallus consists of long tubular branched filaments called hyphae. So the mass of hyphae collectively is called as mycelium. In unicellular forms, mycelium is completely absent. Example is Syncytium. Hyphae long are and they are tubular. The cell wall composed of fungal cellulose, pectose, callose, chitin or any related compound. So the reserve food is glycogen and oil droplets. So these in the diagram you can see the aseptate vegetative hyphae and septate vegetative hyphae. If the mycelium is aseptate multicellular, then this condition is also called as cenocytic, when there is no cell wall and many nuclei are present. And other is septate and multicellular, mycelium is divided by cross walls and then it is called as septate vegetative hyphae. They are divided by septa and the septa possess central pores. So when we discuss the septa, so septum, as we have mentioned, there is septate hyphae. The septa usually possess one or more small perforations in the center to maintain cytoplasmic continuity between adjacent cells. So these are of following types. In the diagram you can see the extreme left, it is solid septum. It is a complete cross wall produced to delimit old and reproductive parts of mycelium. That is, example is it occurs in lower fungi. And second B type is perforated septum, perforated by number of microspores. You can see the perforated septum at the central bottom, and in the diagram the micropores are there. Example is Leotrichum. Then there are bordered pits type septa. Pore is surrounded by an overarching bifurcation of septal margin, giving an appearance of a bordered pit. Example is mucorales. So the septum is, again we can explain it, ascomycetian type and dolipore septum. The ascomycetian type, most common and simple type of septum, there is a large central pore which allows cytoplasm as well as nuclei to move between the cells. But the dolipore septum, it's a complex type of septum found in basidiomycetes. Exemptions are rusts and smuts, and it bears a central barrel-shaped pore called dolipore, guarded by cap-like thickenings called parthenosomes. The edges of septa around the pore are swollen. You can see the diagram below, right hand side, it shows plasma membrane, perforated parthenosome, the pore and the dolipore septum. You can differentiate between the ascomycetian septum and dolipore septum. And next we discuss the flagella. The presence of flagella is a characteristic feature of lower fungi. These are thin hair-like extensions of cell cytoplasm. Each flagellum has a central core known as axoneme. It is composed of 11 fibrils. The two cingulate fibrils, as we see in the diagram accompanying, are central, and 9 doublet fibrils are on the periphery. The two central fibrils are sometimes enclosed by a sheath, whereas the entire 9+2 arrangement of fibrils is the characteristic of all the eukaryotic flagella. So in the diagram you see the LS longitudinal section of flagellum showing 9+2 arrangement of fibrils, and the central cingulate fibril and peripheral doublet fibril, you can see 9+2 arrangement. The motile bodies of fungi may be biflagellate and multiflagellate, and this is a peculiar character of the fungi. There are two kinds of flagella in this fungi kingdom, and first one is the whiplash type. You can see in the lower diagram, the left one. It is also called acronematic type. The whiplash type of flagellum or acronematic type of flagellum is flexible and long, ending into a narrow end piece. It has smooth surface. So you can see the diagram. It has a cytoplasmic sheath. It has the end piece. It is narrowing down towards the end. Second right one diagram is the tinsel type. The tinsel type of flagellum is usually small and bears fine hair-like appendages called flimmer hairs or mastigoneme. It is also called as pentonematic type. So there are hair-like appendages present on it. And modification of mycelium. So when we discuss mycelium, in some fungi the whole mycelium or parts of mycelium undergo various uses to perform various somatic and reproductive functions. Some are as follows, as we discuss. A is plectenchyma, a false tissue-like structure formed by aggregation of hyphae in the mycelium. It is of two types. You see the diagram. The right one is prosenchyma, the loosely woven type tissue of hyphae in which cells are elongated and almost parallel to each other. They do not lose their identity. It is common during formation of fruiting bodies in Asco and Basidiomycotina. So pseudoparenchyma, hyphae become, the left diagram you can see, hyphae become woven and intertwined to form a compact mass of parenchymatous-like tissue. They lose their identity. The example is in the types of fruiting bodies of mushroom. When you eat the mushrooms, you see the pileus portion on the top, cap portion, and there is the umbrella, as there is a handle to the umbrella. There is a stipe to the umbrella-like structure in mushroom, that is called as stipe. So pseudoparenchyma type tissue mycelium is found in the stipe of the mushroom, whereas in the fruiting bodies of Asco and Basidiomycotina, the prosenchyma type of mycelium, it is found. And then is the rhizomorph. It is in the higher fungi. Several hyphae become interwoven with each other and form a cord-like or root-like, string-like, elongated mycelial strands called rhizomorph. These structures serve the function of roots. Example is Basidiomycotina members. You can see the diagram of rhizomorph on the right side. They help in perennation. They help in propagation and fixation and infection of the fungal representative into its host. They help to propagate them. They help to fix them to the substratum, as well as infect the various parasitic type of fungi with the help of rhizomorphs. And other is sclerotia. A sclerotium is a compact globose or elongated structure formed by aggregation and adhesion of hyphae. On the right hand side you can see sclerotia in rye grains. The blackish portion as labeled is sclerotium. They can remain dormant. So this is a compact globose or elongated structure. It is formed by aggregation or adhesion of hyphae, and they can remain dormant under unfavorable conditions for long periods of time. So after the resting period, they germinate to produce again the hyphae. So this is a type of it is, you can see, it is a method of propagation of the fungi, but it is a problem for the rye crop. It is not good for the farmer, but the nature has given rights to develop and propagate to every organism. So is for the Claviceps purpurea is the example. It is a very important fungi. There are many type of drugs formed from Claviceps purpurea. We will be discussing them in economic importance. And then the D is stroma. It is a thick and compact mycelial mat on which large number of fruiting bodies develop. So on the right you can see LS of stroma, the stromatic tissue, perithecia, and you see the stalk. So the stroma is the thick mycelial mat in which large number of fruiting bodies develop. The fructifications are coming, and this is called as stroma. So thank you students. This is the first part of the introduction to fungi. Next part we will be discussing in the next lecture. Thank you. Thanks a lot.